What's up, everybody? I'm David Hain. Welcome to episode 151 of the A to D from Addict to Disciple podcast. If you enjoy this podcast, please like, subscribe, follow, and share the link with your friends, or click on the support link in this episode's description. Your donation of any amount could change a life. If you'd like to get our curriculum, you can get the paperback or ebook of From Ashes to Destiny on Amazon. When we come back, we'll get into this episode entitled Ennui versus Ecstasy. Welcome back to episode 151 of the A to D from Addict to Disciple podcast entitled Ennui versus Ecstasy. I'm currently staying with the men at the Tower of Life shelter in Krugersdorp, South Africa, and I'm surrounded by guys with this overriding ennui to the point that it's like it's in the air. Some people could describe it as a cloud hanging over the area, but for me, it's so prevalent that I can almost taste it in every breath. So what is ennui? And for those of you who are wondering what that word is, it's spelled E-N-N-U-I. And from the Merriam-Webster dictionary, ennui is a feeling of weariness and dissatisfaction. It's sort of like a total boredom, all the time, 24/7. It is a French word that we use in English as ennui. And we also got the English word annoy from the word ennui. So this boredom, the dissatisfaction, the weariness of ennui often creates a level of annoyance in us that we are ready to give up or ready to explode in anger and frustration at any moment. Okay, everybody got that definition, I guess, so far? Well, let's take it a little deeper. From the Modern Novel website, they say, and I quote, "Ennui is the French word for boredom, but in literature, it has a somewhat broader meaning. There's no obvious English word for it. It essentially means a feeling of detachment from the surrounding society and its mores, often due to living in a period and or a place where things are stagnating, often coupled with a general boredom with everything and everybody." Wow. That's a deep definition, and we're going to take that apart piece by piece in this episode. And I'd like to set that up with a quote from philosopher Emile Cioran, who said, and I quote, "Between ennui and ecstasy unwinds our whole experience of time." So let's begin to look at each of the phrases from that definition that I just read and develop an ennui checklist for you to really do a self-inventory from. The first one, number one, is, do you have a feeling of detachment from the surrounding society and its mores? By this I mean, have you found yourself just sort of isolated and set apart from what's really happening in the world? Has this detachment caused a constant sense of dissatisfaction in you? Has the dissatisfaction resulted in a general sense of apathy, almost a spiritless lifestyle? Has this disconnectedness from society fueled further isolation in you and withdrawal from people and even all your emotions? Has the longer you've stayed in this ennui resulted in you becoming hardened and angry and aggressive towards anyone at the drop of a hat? And for me, I'd like to use a quote from author Luke Reinhardt where he says, "Life is islands of ecstasy in an ocean of ennui, and after the age of 30, land is seldom seen." You got that? Has your life to this point felt like bouncing out in an ocean of ennui, an ocean of boredom and dissatisfaction, where you've sort of steered your boat into islands of ecstasy to escape the boredom, the dissatisfaction, the detachment from society, and created your own sort of fantasy society. Well, the second thing we're going to look at, Ennui says it's living in a period and or a place where things are stagnating. As I said in the beginning, I'm living in a homeless shelter with the guys now, and I can see many of them feeling that they're just living in this place and their life is stagnating. And I want to ask you, are you feeling listless? You have no energy or enthusiasm. So if you are, what's causing your sense of stagnation? Is it there's no decent job, no money, you're estranged from your family, no future, no hope for a future, feeling hopeless and lost where you are, but knowing that you're stagnating and you can't see a way out? Well, Oscar Wilde in The Picture of Dorian Gray wrote, and I quote, "I'm tired of myself tonight. I should like to be somebody else." And I think many of us, when we get caught up in situations and places of stagnation, go to bed every night saying, "I'm tired of being myself tonight. I should like to be somebody else, and with that, somewhere else." Okay? The third category we're looking at is for ennui is a general boredom with everything and everybody. So I want to ask you, has this ennui, has this boredom left you feeling mentally tired because you have nothing interesting to do or even think about doing someday? Well, many of today's youth are bored with life. And it's one of the causes that, it could be that all of their basic needs are met with no effort needed. And so since they sort of have all they need, that in itself becomes a boring lifestyle, and they seek out those islands of ecstasy. We can get so comfortable in that lifestyle that it creates the discomfort of boredom. And we begin to believe that nothing is worth the effort, because no matter what we try, it won't change anything. It won't change this sea of ennui that we're floating in. And we end up like life has no purpose for us, and our life has lost meaning, and therefore we have no motivation to even go and search for meaning and purpose in our life. And again, I'm going to quote from philosopher Emile Cioran, who said, "Ennui is the echo in us of time tearing itself apart." I want to ask you, has your boredom, has your ennui, has your dissatisfaction reached a point where it seems to be tearing apart time itself in you, where every day is just another day? There's no days, there's no weeks, there's no months, there's no sense of time. It's just sort of floating in life in a sort of timeless state. Well, if any of these things are you, what do? And I really see two choices. I'm sure there's many more. The first choice is sort of an obvious one. We get caught up in chasing addiction, chasing the ecstasy, chasing maybe even ecstasy as the drug or other stimulants that we think will add excitement and fun to our life. There'll be those islands of ecstasy when we get high. And so the ennui creates in us a lifestyle of addiction. Or even when we get clean and sober and the boredom sets in, it can lead to relapse. Or maybe you've developed a lifestyle of escapism, where you've built islands into your life where you can escape reality and live in your fantasy, and you've sort of become an ecstasy seeker. Well, those are the men and women that I meet every day all around the world and deal with their ecstasy, deal with their behavior issues that came as a result of their addiction and try to unpack that and get to the wound and get to the ennui underneath. So the second option is, if you're ready to deal with your sense of ennui, let's look at each of the aspects. Are you ready to deal with your sense of detachment? Well, if you are, then positive steps that you could make are intentionally getting plugged in, intentionally becoming part of an ongoing activity in society, like park walks or going to the gym or making friends or going to the mall, joining a group, making new friends, whatever it is. I think we need to recognize our own detachment from society and intentionally take steps to get plugged in again. And the Dalai Lama once said, and I quote, "Our prime purpose in this life is to help others. And if you can't help them, at least don't hurt them." Can you hear that? Even if you're here and you can't find the groups to plug into and you don't know where you fit in, you can take the purpose in life of getting a place to help others. And definitely, if you struggle finding a way to volunteer and help others, at least decide that you're going to stop hurting them. Okay, the second area we can look at is the stagnation part of ennui. What do we do when we are in that place of stagnation and we feel like our life has become stagnant? Well, I would say make several short-term plans and do them. And by short-term, I mean, what can you do today? What can you do tomorrow, next week, next month? I'm not talking about a 5-year plan here. I'm talking about, what are you doing today, tomorrow, this week? And what can you do to set in motion now those things that need to be set in motion to accomplish where you want to be next month? And just sort of take it 1 month at a time so that the waters begin flowing again. And because the word is stagnation, it can involve picturing the area that you're at like a dam that's been blocked up with logs, and what logs need to be dealt with and removed so the water can start flowing again. Okay, the third area is general boredom. You know, that one that I described where just 24/7 everything seems boring in life. Well, if that's you, I urge you to get creative. Get involved in things that are creative. Get a new hobby. Learn a new activity. Identify fun people and fun things that they are doing that you can give a try. And use your support people, especially if you're struggling to come up with ideas. Use your support people as a brainstorming group and have a session with them to help find ideas for you that you can try and get started. And it may be as simple as go places you've never been with the purpose of enjoying it. You know, a lot of places we've never been, we go because we decide ahead of time we just wouldn't like it or we wouldn't have fun there. But you know what? Other people are. And if you go with the sense of seeing what they are enjoying in it and enjoying it in that aspect, we can get very creative and very positive and find our boredom going away. And William Morris said, and I quote, "The true secret of happiness lies in taking a genuine interest in all the details of daily life." So, you know, it really means getting rid of that boredom piece and getting a genuine interest in even those details which seem boring now. I'd like to close with a quote by Helen Keller. And she wrote this in The Story of My Life. And it says, and I quote, "It is wonderful how much time good people spend fighting the devil. If they would only expend the same amount of energy loving their fellow men, the devil would die in his own tracks." And I really put this one at the end here because so many people can, you know, blame the devil or blame spiritual attacks for their ennui. And I like this encouragement from Helen Keller to say, take that time that you're spending blaming the devil. Take that energy that you're expending in that aspect and spend that energy on loving your fellow man, and your ennui will go away. Thanks for listening to this episode of the A to D From Addict to Disciple podcast. If you would like to join a group online or get one-on-one counseling online to help you deal with your sense of ennui, please message me on the link in this podcast or by email at davidfroma2d@gmail.com, or go to my website www.fromatod.org and click on the contact page. You can keep in touch with what we're doing in From A to D by following me on Instagram at davidfroma2d. For our Spotify listeners, you can leave your comments by clicking on the link they provide on that platform. Tune in Monday for our next episode, and as always, stay safe and stay strong.